as we get ready to go through after lunch and we sit down, what my role is today after doing this orientation is just to help you see where it could work for you. Whether it's, you know what, I'm going to implement a lab like this from Dawson, and I'm going to be the first person to schedule it at my school, and this is how we're going to use it, to, you know what, I'm in an elementary classroom, we're not going to get the whole lab because it's just not going to work, but how do I implement it, how do I do things? So my job is to share some of our experiences with you, talk to you about ideas, talk to you about the implementation process. What we do with the website, we have each of the lab, all of those startup guides, all of those resources are out there and available. We encourage you to get your kids to log in and check those out, especially for some of the more complicated machines. Since we don't want to teach you how to do it, all right, so this is the 3D printer lab. If I go to pathways.npbd.com, which is what our website is, when we get, if Dawson is going, they can use this website as well with their own, with the Mid-Nebraska MakerSpace logos and all that stuff instead of the NPBD. But there'll be a link with a number. So my numbers are P, those are for the pathways. 1020 happens to be the 3D printer lab. And as we go through, the first section talks about the printer safety. The second section is more of that how-to guide. There's a video on the Affinia printer specifically. There's links to the quick start guides to how to use the 3D printer. The workforce skills, this would focus on an engineering design process, so there's a graphic there for the engineering design process. The different workforce skills that are listed on the board. The real life application. So this is an engineering career profile that we have. So we have all of these different careers that set down all the different skills that they use, the qualifications. All of this information is directly from NPBD's HR division, which it's kind of funny what you can get when you ask, because a lot of this stuff isn't public. And I said, well, I'm going to make it public. And they're like, no, my only restriction was I cannot put exactly what the salary is. I can only put the salary range. Other than that, I was really surprised, because these are actual, when you go and you get the electrical engineering job description, this is what's written in it. It's unedited. Just formatted a little prettier than what HR does. But it's just a really cool way for then the kids to start to see the different careers. The real life applications. These are some links to different projects that you can do. And then some shutdown procedures just to make sure that everything's getting organized and well. So each one of these has a how-to guide like this. Some have more links to outside projects, like the Arduino stuff. There's so many things outside of what we do that it's really cool. But what I do want to show you, so this whole shoebox makerspace idea. We're talking about all these great big labs. This lab is a lot of money. It's a lot of resources. It's a lot of commitment. But as you look on that pyramid that we looked at before, there are lots of different ways to implement. One of them is just like a file cabinet makerspace. So every drawer of the file cabinet off in the library has just different stuff in it. And maybe there's an idea or a challenge card inside of there that says, use this box of Legos to make this idea, and they build it. Or use these straws and paper to make stuff. Well, the shoebox makerspace, the way we break this down, It's a process to get younger kids into the maker's mentality. As most of you know, especially you elementary teachers, I can't just throw stuff out and say make something, because kids aren't ready for that. The kids want guidance, and so we have to guide them out of wanting guidance. Is kind of our concept with this Shoebox Makerspace. So what a Shoebox Makerspace is very simple. I take shoebox for every kid. Nothing you can do can fit outside of your shoebox. So any materials you use, any projects you build, everything has to fit in your shoebox. So if I have 100 kids in my 6th grade that rotates through my science class, I'm going to have 100 shoebox stacked up on my wall. And that's the entire makerspace. So every project, they have to think through this process of what tools, what equipment, what can I use that I can keep inside of my little shoebox. And that helps keep this massive, I mean, if I'm going to have 100 kids do a makerspace, you guys have all done projects where it just overtakes the entire school because you got too much going on with your projects. So the shoebox helps organize that. So the first thing that we do is we start with techniques. Okay, these shoebox techniques. I show kids how to roll paper and fold paper footballs. And then their first challenge, they have to use footballs and rolled paper. That's it. I don't tell them anything else. I showed them the technique of how to roll and how to fold. And then we go from there. So there's a perfect example. So this is a 2-stage rocket system built out of rolled paper and paper footballs. Okay? So it's a really cool way to just show them a technique and then give them that opportunity to figure out how to use. I mean, I got like 5 rolled up tubes stuck into a big tube. So, did they roll tubes? Yes. Did they make something out of it? Yes. There's no criteria, there's no grade, there's no failure, there's participation, and you do what you roll the tube and you fold it a paper football. All right, so then the second thing that we do is we control the materials. Okay, so we give them certain challenges based on what materials we provide for them. Whether it's paper, whether it's aluminum foil, whether it's string, we just can introduce different materials and then say you have to use this material in this process. So this one was a roller coaster challenge to use a marble, but it had to have a 360-degree change of direction. So they're learning about degrees and all that stuff in their science class. So you give the assignment, but I don't give you instructions. I just give you the materials and then the challenge. And they built, and the cool part about it was they can like pop up out of your box. They can be in 15 pieces, and then when you build it together, it's 6 feet tall. But when you're done, it has to collapse back down inside of your box. So you can see like this kid had stuff that popped up out, and then they had to put in the other slide, so it's a couple different pieces. So as we do the controlled, then we start introducing different tools. And who knows what that tool is? Maybe calipers, maybe a scale, it may be laser thermometers. I don't know what tool you want to introduce, but the project then is, all right, you're going to use this one as scales, meter sticks, and protractors. And whatever you make uses those, then we're good. And so they implement those tools into the process. The next stage that we go to are themes. Okay, so the first theme, a real easy introduction for this would be like your reading novels. So most, especially 6th grade, you all have different reading groups or whatever, and you say, give us the conflict in your reading novel, and they have to make something that tells that story. Obviously, you want to encourage that to be interactive. Like if I pull on a string, something happens. I mean, it doesn't need to be just limited to using Q-tips to paint the picture, or we want creativity. turn a crank and something takes place. This one happens to be the second theme challenge, which was to build a prop from your favorite movie. Okay? And then we have a contest where the principal comes in, and it's not to see how good the students did, it's how many movies the middle school principal knows about. And so 105 movie themes. And the middle school principal with this project got like 70 of them correct, which I was like blown away. This one is, he cheated a bit because it's on the outside of his shoebox, not inside his shoebox, but it's the Ghostbusters backpack. And it's really cool. We had actually a working Paul Blart Mall Cop on a two-wheeled thing driving across. We had this pretty amazing underwater scene from Finding Nemo, where they used like the colored sugar to build just all kinds of really, really cool things that were able to just be based on that theme of a prop from your favorite movie. The next section that we went into was ownership. We really wanted to make this, it's more than just making things, but the idea of this entrepreneurship, this business, this innovation really gives them ownership. And so we used their iPads to use freelogomaking.com or some other app that makes logos on it. And they had to make a logo, and they had to come up with a logo and a name of their business. So you see what the name of this business is? What? Invinity. And I'm like, okay, getting chills, right? Because this has got to be the coolest name I've ever seen for a MakerSpace business concept. Invinity. What is it? I mean, that's cool, right? So I'm like praising this girl. Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And she's like, it's a typo. I didn't know how to spell infinity. I'm like, I don't care. That is the greatest name I've ever seen for a MakerSpace business. And it's just really cool. So then we actually printed off, every shoebox then has their logo on it. And they do that whole ownership concept. But then the last one was choice. Okay, the biggest problem with any MakerSpace is what to do. How do you make a choice on what to do? There's so much, and we're just not really good at coming up with our own ideas and making stuff, right? Even, people that do it, we cheat, we steal, we find things, then make it better. We get ideas from other people. There's a million places to find ideas, but then it's your job to make it yours. So this is a brainstorming activity where we broke everything out, and they did all this brainstorming, they come up with this idea, but the job was to build whatever you want that falls underneath your business, but it has to make a difference for somebody. It has to do something for someone else. It just can't be, I want to make something for me. And so that was a big challenge to get to the point where it's doing something for somebody else within their business idea. We had things like kids make something for their grandma, a place to hang, 3D printed some things where they hang their keys, because their grandma always forgets where they put their keys. That's great. That's a really cool concept that they came up with based on all this brainstorming and all of that. Probably the coolest thing that happened, special ed student who had a para with them every day that we were in the lab, and sometimes struggled with some of the things. One, the movie prop, he ended up not doing the movie prop at school because he wanted to build it with his dad. And he ended up building a lightsaber that collapsed so it fit in the shoebox and expanded out and lit up. And his dad's like, he did most of it. I didn't do any of it. And it was cool because he wanted to do it with his dad. But then the other piece was, He wanted to make a duct tape wallet. And I'm like, Brant, what are you going to do with it? It's got to make a difference for somebody. And, he gets a little frustrated and, you got to make a difference for somebody. What are you going to do with that wallet? You can't just make one for yourself. So they did their thing. I leave, go downtown like a month and a half later, and Brant comes running up to me in the grocery store, and he says, you know what I did with my wallet? I said, what? I made 10 of them. And I sold them and donated the money to the pet shelter. I'm like, that's why we do it. He figured out how to make these duct tape wallets on his own. He made 10 of them and sold them to, I'm sure his dad probably bought them all, but or grandma or whatever, but it was still just really cool because he realized that he could make a wallet so he could make money to help that shelter. So that's the culture that we want. We want this makerspace to spawn creativity, to be challenging, and to get kids to think. That whole idea of being able to figure things out. So I know that was a lot of rambling for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it was. I'll answer some questions, but we have lunch. Here's the deal. I don't care if you come back, right? If you don't want to come back, don't. But if you do come back with an attitude of figuring it out. Because I want you to figure things out. I'll answer questions and those kind of things, but even the idea of how do I do this in a third grade classroom, figure it out. Come up with your own ideas. They're going to be better than mine. So come back, please. I want you to come back, but obviously you don't have to. But when you come back with that idea. We'll have everything up and running when you get back, and you'll have opportunities. Until it's time to go home, I have to be back in Aurora by 5 o'clock. And that includes packing up. So that 3 o'clock ballpark, if you have questions and things beyond that, it's okay. I'll answer your questions. But so come back, have an hour and a half, 2 hours of, just pure play. Enjoy figuring out how this stuff works. And you'll start to see why it's important that we do this for our kids.